Hi, welcome to the Bruce Channel. I'm Bruce, and we've got some diverse elements today, so come on in. Grab your tea and sit back for the next 15 minutes or so, and we'll try and have some fun. All right, some storm in the northeast, huh? All right, so it didn't quite live up to the direst of warnings in terms of snow totals. It didn't bring upwards toward 4 feet, but it was still a big, big storm. Central Park had under 10 inches in New York, but sticking out into the water, Long Island got over 30. Boston got hit with 2 feet of snow, and some places got over 3. It was brutal by any standards. Now, broadly speaking, low temps were in the teens, and you'd think maybe not so bad, but it was the wind, by some accounts exceeding over 70 miles an hour, sustained. The Northeast has had an easy winter so far. Now, Buffalo, New York's historic snow of last fall doesn't count. That's not the Northeast, it's on Lake Erie. When that storm hit, I marveled at it. Having grown up in Cleveland, I remember some terrible snowstorms where once the stuff is plowed, it's like canyons, and parking lots have mountains. I was in Cleveland when something comparable to this week's storm hit. It was 1978. Eerily similar dates. It moved across the Midwest and Great Lakes states January 25th through the 27th. About 22 inches of snow fell in Cleveland, and that's not historic. Instead, the barometer bottomed out in Cleveland at 28.28 millibars of mercury. Now, at the time, that was the lowest pressure ever recorded anywhere in the United States, excepting tropical storms. All right. That low pressure was eclipsed just 4 years ago in Minnesota, but I will tell you this. You get that kind of low pressure, and the wind howls. You hear the freight train that tornado survivors always speak of. The noise is constant. The rafters creak. You hope the roof stays on. And if you've never felt it, just take my word for it, you're better off. We were lucky, we never lost power. And that's remarkable because the wind gusts were over 100 miles per hour. And I will tell you this, it is impossible to stand up in 100-mile-an-hour winds. I know because I tried. Yeah, big trees all around, hurricane force winds, and I'm trying to stand up. It's possible I've grown a little wiser since then, but that isn't certain. And it's not unlikely that I do something as dumb today, but at least it would be a different dumb thing, you know, fool me once and sort of like that. Okay, so today is Super Bowl Sunday. I guess we need to break out the guacamole. Not much to say really, other than if the Patriots cheated with underinflated balls 2 weeks ago, some sort of example should be made of them. I don't know if they did, and I hope they didn't. Nor do I think it affected the outcome either way, because they so outplayed the Colts. Today's game provides a very intriguing matchup. Like them or not, and I don't particularly. But Patriots coach Bill Belichick has firmly installed himself as one of the best of all time. Maybe the best. He has the most postseason victories of any coach, but the postseason is so much longer with all the wild card games. He's certainly had many more opportunities. But he's 3-3 in Super Bowls, and it's been 10 years since he won one. If his record goes to 3-4, it won't diminish his accomplishments, but yeah, some of the luster would be off his record. What makes a great sub-story? Whom did he replace in New England? He replaced his opposite number, Seahawks coach Pete Carroll. So who wins? That's why they play. I'll stay with my original pick, the Patriots. I do see it as not extremely close, but not a blowout. But you know what? There is no scenario, big win, small win, big scores, low scoring, no scenario with either team winning that would astonish me, which is why it should be fun to watch. All right, this doesn't rise to the level of a rant, but it's another one of those TV scheduling things that annoys. I confess, I enjoy NBC's The Blacklist. It's the only show from the 2013 season that I stayed with. Full disclosure, I sampled very few. Now, I was dismayed earlier this season when they interrupted it, they pulled it. But they did use the show's high ratings during the final 2 shows to unceasingly plug its replacement. They promised to bring it back later. Well, it worked. I did watch more than a half hour of its replacement. Haven't been back since. But back to the timing. So the Super Bowl is on NBC, and the brought back Blacklist will return after the game with a scheduled start of 10:15. Now that's not by itself so awful, but come on. Inasmuch as coverage for the game, or pre-coverage I guess it might be called, on some other networks it even starts in the morning, do we really need to delay the game until 6:30? It's not a weeknight. We don't have to wait for the West Coast viewers to get home from work. And it might be pointed out, the blacklist starts at 10:15 if everything goes as planned. What if the lights go out, as they did 2 years ago, imparting, what, a 34-minute delay? All right, that's not likely, I know. But things happen. What if regulation ends in a tie and they go to overtime, or even double overtime, which has happened in the playoffs because you have to play till there's a winner. It isn't unprecedented. But nobody cares about we, the sheeple. Many wrote complimenting the idea of fans' appreciation for performers who in days gone by made us smile with their talent, but who now may be frail and far away from being front and center. Got several suggestions of what to call the feature too, but inasmuch as we start putting together the show at midweek, that only allowed a few days. So we thought we'd wait and announce the name next week. Oh, don't forget, if you have a name for the feature, or someone in mind whom you think ought to get an attaboy, by all means write and tell us, and you can write us at thebrucechannel@yahoo.com. Once more, that's thebrucechannel@yahoo.com. And one more word. While last week everyone I mentioned was an actor, it doesn't have to be an actor. It could be a musician, an athlete, a songwriter, even, though I know it's hard to imagine any of the present day ones as being worthy, a politician. Anyone who has worked in public work, anyone whose work you appreciated or enjoyed, and who today may be out of the limelight or even forgotten, that's whom we'll make an effort to find and pass on the contact info. Last week I mentioned that as a cast member of the movie Samka, I was now on the International Movie Database, or imdb.com. A couple of weeks ago, I had mentioned that the first showing of the movie was just a few weeks in the offing, and we're about there. It's next Saturday. And while there won't be time to show you pictures and things during next week's show, mark your calendars. I'm sure it will occupy a fair amount of the show a couple weeks from now, February 15th, and we'll be back. Hey, let me tell you about my book, Shrink. Or wait, I can let others do it. All right, we got some mail from some folks who've been watching since we began in November, who wrote to say essentially the same thing. They've watched us progress, that things are looking better, and we're glad that you noticed. Yeah, we're making progress. We're better now. We've got better sound, we've got HD, and two, I'd been away from the camera for some years, so there was some rust. But for those of you who noticed, thank you very much. And by all means, like and share if you'd be so kind. Okay. I want to show you something a friend of mine introduced me to. It's an app. It's available for either Apple or Android products. I gotta tell you this, I have never spent 1 second playing a game on Facebook. Now, when it was first the buzz, I did play a few seconds of Angry Birds on my tablet. But the truth is, I haven't got time to play games. And this is different. It doesn't take much time. I've always enjoyed Trivial Pursuit. This isn't that, but it is a trivia game, and it's called Quiz Up. It's available for mobile devices. You select a category from nearly 680 of them, and then you challenge a friend, or you're paired with a random player from somewhere in the world, and the two of you square off against each other. A single game is 7 multiple choice questions, so you've got to be quick and it doesn't take long. Here's a sample of a game being played. And it's big fun. It keeps track of your scores, it awards bonuses depending on speed. I saw my friend in his favorite category, movies, be declared best in the state of Ohio. So I thought I'd share. It's a lot of fun, and again the app is called Quiz Up. Oh, and it's free. Regarding last week's segment about my Rat Pack show, one viewer wrote and asked how much it costs. It varies. If I only have to travel 3 miles and do one show, it's a lot less than if I have to travel 200 miles or 2,000 miles. But for serious inquiries, write tuesdayschild.rr.com. And about the show, as I said, in addition to music, there might be contests and clowning, and sometimes I tell trivia about the songs or performers. Like the fact that Sammy Davis Jr., with myriad hits to his credit, only had one reach #1. That was Candyman. Or this, which I think again illustrates that truth is stranger than fiction. Often in my show is a very old song, My Melancholy Baby. Actually, there's 2 stories here. A long time ago, on an episode of My Three Sons, Bub, played by Bill Frawley, who is also known as Fred Mertz on I Love Lucy, chided his son-in-law, Steve, played by Fred McMurray, about a time in Steve's past when he apparently got a little, shall we say, happy. And as I recall it, wore a lampshade and sang Melancholy Baby. But there's a joke. There's a joke there. For the plot, any song title could have been used. Easter Parade, Climb Every Mountain. But see, the joke was an inside joke, because My Melancholy Baby was introduced in 1912 at the Mozart Cafe in Denver, Colorado. And who introduced it? Who performed it first? A song and dance man by the name of Bill Frawley. Yeah. A second truth about the song. The music was written by a guy named Ernie Burnett, introduced in 1912, as I said. Just a few years later, he found himself in Europe as a part of the AEF, the American Expeditionary Forces during World War I. He was wounded, sent to a hospital, where they discovered he'd completely lost his memory, didn't know who he was. Well, back then, as now, although it wasn't called the USO, entertainers traveled to raise troops' morale. A pianist played several popular songs of the day, including Melancholy Baby. Okay. So Ernie hears it, he rises from his sickbed and shouts, "That's my song!" True story, and one I love to tell. All right, so I'm not going to play the whole song for you, but if you're unfamiliar with it, because the stories are so good, here's a clip from my Rat Pack show. And it's in the show because, while I remembered the title from My Three Sons, the first time I actually heard it was on a Dean Martin album.
Smile, my holiday, while I kiss away each tear, or else I shall be melancholy too.
It really is a good song. It has intelligent lyrics and a very sophisticated chord structure. It's a great song. Anyway, here we are at the end of this week's show. But the week upcoming, well, I hope it's the best week you've ever had.